Hi everybody, this is Tor Storley and I am back with another video. In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can create your own community extension, and you don't necessarily have to push it out to the DuckDB Community Extension website, but you can use it in your own projects at home, in your local machine, which is what I'm going to show you. Now, I have struggled with this, as I might have mentioned in the previous videos where I did the macros for the financial functions in DuckDB. And I did have to work for this about, a day and a half to put it all together because of all the plumbing and all the problems I had. I'm happy to say I was able to create a community extension using Rust language, which is a very fast, perhaps even faster than C++. So it's very responsive and it's memory safe program. So it has very high potential. And a lot of these big companies like Microsoft and any new projects, even the government, any new projects they're gonna be developing should be in Rust, not C++, because of the memory issue, memory leaks, etc. So I was very happy that I got it to work with my good friend Claude Sonnet 4.6. Between us, we made it work finally after a lot of complications. But I have created a project. I have created a community extension. And in this video, I'm going to share with you what I came up with, and all the code and everything I'm using here. I will push it out to my GitHub repository so you can, try it out yourself if you feel inclined to do so. So I created a project here. I call it DuckDB-Rust-Extension. And by the way, you probably don't want to call your project that because it doesn't really like those dashes. You should probably use underscores instead. DuckDB_Rust_. Now, I did change it in the code itself, but the name of the project is this. That's the folder. So when you drill in here, I have a source folder and a target folder. Now we'll get back to this target folder. There's a git ignore, anything you want to ignore if you push to GitHub. There's a cargo TOML file. Cargo is a program or project, I don't know how to explain it, that does a lot of the heavy lifting for Rust programming. And packages are called crates. They're not called packages in Rust. But Cargo will take a lot of the plumbing and do it for you. So it's like a support language, if you will, to your Rust project. Okay, so let's just leave it at that. So I also have some extra files here, as you can see. And some of them are useful, some of them are not. The important ones is going to be in the source folder. This Quarto document here that I made into an HTML, and we're going to look at that because I lay out the whole project inside this HTML file. All the code resides in this lib.rust or rs extension file. And there's a lot of stuff going on here, and I'm not really going to explain this in detail because, first of all, I don't know how to explain it in detail because there's a lot of syntax here that is very specific to the Rust to C programming to DuckDB. So there's a lot of plumbing going on. And, I'm not an expert in all that stuff. All I know is that this code works for me, and that's all I care about. Now, what I have done in this file is I created a bunch of functions. And you can see here, I have some helper functions. You have a float64, parse CSV. Now, the CSV is a little different. It's not a CSV file. It's just a text string. So we'll get back to that. Here you can see there are a combination in here of homemade or custom made that I have pushed into this module, this lib.rs file that is created from scratch. And then there's other functions, if you will, like future value. That comes from the financial crate or package, depending on what language you're in. So there's a crate called financial out there that has already built in some of these functions. Some of them that are missing from that, I created myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow this HTML file here, and then we're going to look a little bit about how you can set this up. And I'm going to go fairly quick over it. And if you're very interested in learning how to dig into the detail, things that seems a little rusty, no pun intended, you should probably do some Google searches into the Rust library and figure out why it's done like that. It's very technical code here, so there's no way I can explain it within this video if I'm going to stay with time. Plus, there's certain things I don't understand myself. We'll just go through it. Again, with the help of Claude, I was able to make this work. So I'm super happy. I had a eureka moment yesterday where I was ready to give up, and then I ran this final command, and ba-boom, it worked. And I was super, super happy. I was jumping up and down because after spending 1.5 days going back and forth with Claude and trying to solve all these plumbing issues and all the coding issues, it's frustrating because eventually Claude will start circling around and give you answers it has given you before, and it doesn't solve anything. Then you got to argue with it, and it's just a lot of stuff. But I've made it work, so I'm super happy. So let me lay it out for you. I'm going to open this HTML file with this live server, and it's a Quarto document. So the author is me and Claude, as you can see here. You can click into these different sections so you can see them. There are some technical stuff like scalar, which is specific to the functionality of DuckDB. You're going to have scalar function, meaning they're only going to return one value, not a whole table. And there are this financial crate, which is this package thing that implements some of the Excel financial formulas. The missing ones I created. So what I did was, well, with the help of Claude, obviously. But here you can see, these are the functions that I have included in this here. And there's a total of 14 functions, I believe. There are these functions supported by this financial package. And then if I had to create them with the help of Claude, I list it as a no here. So if they're part of that financial crate, I have it as a yes. If they're not, if I had to implement them directly in the code, then it's a no. So as you can see, the payment, the interest portion of a payment, the principal portion of a payment, the cumulative interest portion of a payment, and the cumulative principal of a payment are the functions here that I had to put into the module myself. And then you also had functions that didn't exist, like a number of periods and the rate. And then you have net present value, you have net present value factoring in the timing issue of the cash flows, internal rate of return factoring in uneven times where the cash flows were put in. And then you have something called a modified internal rate of return, and we'll look at that down here. So in a project setup, you're going to have a cargo TOML file. So if you look here, for example, the package here, this is the name of my package, the version I put in. Now this is the important part, the dependencies. For DuckDB, the code base I used, the template base I used, was a beta version of DuckDB. It was not this version here. It was like 1.0532 or something like that. I had to add in this one, the vscalar feature of this. There was a lot of work here to make this work. It was not as basic. I found this Reddit post that basically said how to set up this in Rust. And I followed that, but of course it didn't work for me. So I had to go back and forth and try to figure it out. And that's what I did. I upgraded the version of DuckDB to 1.3. The original, I think it was 1.105 or something. The original that it was created against this library that creates this template for Rust. But it was problematic, I got to tell you. So what happened is I also add in this financial 1.1.5 crate. And this chrono crate is also added in to take care of dates, okay? And the rest of the stuff is pretty self-explanatory. I use DuckDB 1.3.0. And if you remember from DuckDB, what you can do is you can go in, find DuckDB wherever you have the CLI, and I got a bunch of stuff here. But in my main folder, which is this one, I have several versions of DuckDB. The one you make available here like this, duckdb.exe, is the one that is going to be used. Now, if you look at that version, you can go to Properties here, and you can see in the details that this is indeed version 1.3.0. So I upgraded it from the 1.1. You can see I tried a 1.1 here. I could never get it to work. So 1.3.0. And whatever it's called, this version is what I put in. I don't know how these versions works, but this combined with this seems to work. Okay, also I give you a couple of notes here. I say how to install Rust. So if you click install Rust, this is where you can download it. And there's different versions, of course. You can also find the crates if you click into this link. And that takes you to this crates.io. And like in my case, I use the financial. So I can say financial. And you can see here, it loads the first one. So you can click in here and you can see the supported functions here. I have 14 functions. Here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 function supported. But you can also see future work, add more function like the end pair, payment, rate, and effect. Now, I don't know about this effect thing, but I added these 3 functions into my module. So I have those covered. Okay, so that's the financial. And then you have more detailed documentation. And here's all the crates. And again, you can search. So here you can see it. Now you're getting in a lot more details, and you can see there's a description, etc., etc. If you click here, you're getting in to an example. You can go to the source. If you click the source, you can see the code they use to calculate this. And then I go through some useful commands that you're going to probably want to use. Find out which Rust version you're using after you install it. If you want to help with cargo version. And here you can see if you want to create a new project, this is how you can do it. Cargo, new, and then the name of your project, folder. Then I can use this command to see what's in there. It should be pretty empty. And there might be a couple of extra files put in there, or folders, I should say. Then you can CD in here and look inside that folder what's there. If you want to just run that new project, you can use this command. If you don't want to see all the feedback you're getting in your terminal window, meaning you want to suppress a lot of these messages and just look at the output, you can do this -Q for quiet. You can also look at the whole structure by using this cargo tree. And you can also add a crate like by using this add command. And then you can even specify which version you want to use. So if you had an older version you need to load, you could specify that in the last part of this command here. There's also metadata. Now this gets very large. And it also get into like a JSON format. So readability wise, it's not very good. And of course, you can also look to see if you have this crate in your TOML file. And that's what this grep command is doing. If you're going to build your project, you first want to remove the target folder. What do I mean by target folder? Well, let me show you a little bit here. So if I go into my desktop to my project, which is this, if I build and run this stuff, I will create a target folder. And the key here is this release. And really all you need from this release, if you're going to move it onto another computer, or if you want to move it to a separate folder and load your extension from there in DuckDB, this is the file you need. The name of the file, .duckdb extension. This should include all the Rust code and everything you need in order to run this. You don't need all the DLLs and all this. You need this one. For example, I created one just to test this out. If I go to my C, if I go to the TMP folder, and if I go into DuckDB Financial Extension here, you can see that's the only file I have. And then I just have some helper files here that has nothing to do with running the actual extension. So I just want you to know that when you run this clean, it removes the target folder and it removes a log file in your project if you have one. Then what you want to do is you want to run the cargo build release. And what that one does is it builds all your DLLs and all that stuff I just showed you. All these files it will generate when you do the build. And the key one is this. Make sure it builds this. It will actually create a package file that is not the right version of DuckDB. So what I did in order to make this work, to force it to be version 1.3.0, which seems to work, I run this command last. And this forces it to package the DuckDB version 1.3.0, not the 1.1.0532 or whatever it is. So this combination works for me. Now, all this stuff is Rust specific. I'm not going to even look at it. You can do it yourself. It's all kind of Rust kind of code. Again, all the using statements that you're going to need sits here. All this is taken from that lib.rs file. Okay, and then of course you can parse it, because what I'm using in for like NPV and internal rate of return, I pass in the cash flows, if you will, as strings. Okay, and then here you can see you split it by comma, and then you're basically mapping the values into the right parameter, if you will, in the code. Okay, so that's what these are doing. And you do the same thing with the dates. So you have for values, which is dollar values, and these are for dates. And then you have time value of money functions here, you can see. Future value, show you the formula. Here is the signature, the DuckDB signature, and you can see all the code that relates to it. Here you see a SQL example, how you can use it with the community extension I create. And here you got a present value, the same thing. It shows you all the math, how it's calculated. And again, you can just go back to that lib.rs file and find these formulas here. But this is a one place you can actually read it out. And all this F64 stands for float 64, obviously. So you get payment. I'll show you a little bit what it is, the formula, an example of it. You have the interest portion of a payment, principal portion, cumulative interest portion, where you keep adding them up. And same thing with principal. You have the number of periods. It's calculated like this. Number of periods, it's calculated internally because there's no financial crate function for it. You have the rate, same thing. And again, there's notes here you can read up on. And I also wanted to create an amortization table. And why did I want to do that? Because I wanted to see if I could get all the formulas correct. Internal rate of return with irregular dates, meaning your payments are not on the same point in time. These are the entry points you need to have in order to get in and combine Rust with DuckDB. Here you can see all the functions I'm going to register from Rust into DuckDB. And this is how you load the extension. So when you load the extension, what you should do is you open a command window or PowerShell window or something like that, depending which environment you're in. But make sure you type in DuckDB unsigned, because this thing is unsecured, it's unsigned, in other words. So you need to run it like this, okay? DuckDB unsigned. And then you can load the extension like this. So for example, if I had my extension in the temp folder like I showed you, it would be C:/TMP/ and then the name of the DuckDB_Rust_extension .DuckDB extension. So this should load it, and if you load it correctly, you don't get an error. It will give you another D that like in the CLI. So this is how I loaded it from my original project folder on desktop. You can see it here. So I gave you that example. And here is a way you can check and make sure that all the functions you are loading here actually shows up. You can run this query right here and see which one of these functions show up. And if they all do, then you're good to go. And here is some quick reference examples. Now this one means that it's either an ordinary annuity or annuity due. If it's false, it's an ordinary annuity, meaning the payment is made at the end of the period. So if this is January, on the 1st of January, the payment is due at the end of the month, then you use this false, okay? If all the payments are made at the end of the period, you use false. If it's made at the very beginning, the whole thing shifts, and therefore you have to use this true. That becomes an annuity, what is called an annuity due, okay? So you control that with this flag in the back here. So there's a bunch of functions here, and I will go through some examples in the next video. And here I just listing that I used Claude to help me out with this project. Now, I really hope you like my videos, and I hope you like this video. And if you do, please give me a like and consider subscribing to my channel. It'd be fantastic. And I will show you examples how to run this and show you a little bit about the project in the next video.